Greetings, my white brothers and sisters. You're tuned in to the Blue Tunic Trumpet. I'm your boy Blue, and I am back with my second reaction video. I know, but let me have some fun with this while I work on some more interesting stuff in the background. So, this episode is going to deal with the movie Get Out, written and directed by Jordan Peele, and coming out on the 24th, which, as of this uploading, would probably be about 3 days from now. Honestly, this movie probably would have flown right by my radar, if not for the fact that I had to sit through the advertisements for this thing on YouTube again and again and again and again. I swear some days it was almost the only advertisement I would see. Also, from the time I first started seeing these, which would have been about, the 8th or 9th of February up to now, I've only been able to skip the advertisements once. And they're 30-second advertisements. So when I have to take notice of your product because you're so forcefully pushing it for me to see, well, you better watch out, because then I'm just going to have to sit there and critique the damn thing almost out of irritation. Now, the first advertisement I saw for this actually caught me just because it is so obviously a movie about race. Now, it bills itself as a horror movie, but it's just some racial anti-white propaganda. Really, that's what it comes down to. And it was so obvious. It blew me away the first time I saw it, just how obvious it is. So I wanted to do a reaction to the trailer that's up on the Universal Pictures YouTube site. And real quick before we jump into that, I wanted to look at some of the key figures here behind this movie. Well, the primary key figure, but somebody else behind him. I was actually quite surprised as I was looking this stuff up. So let me flash the Wikipedia page up here. It was written and directed by Jordan Peele. Now, the name was instantly familiar. And when I looked at the Wikipedia page for him, I was like, oh, well, yeah, I know this guy. Jordan Peele, he is a mulatto, the product of a black father, white mother, so big shocker there. Also being anti-white, that's typically a mulatto thing. So that this kind of schleck would come from him is not a surprise at all, I guess, in the end. But I do remember him from his days when he joined Mad TV in its later seasons. And if you're not aware of what that is, that was a sketch comedy show from back in the day. Kind of like late 90s, maybe more into the 2000s, earlier 2000s. The early seasons were great. I loved it. And he was also part of the comedy duo Key and Peele, who had their own sketch comedy show. So I know him from some of his stuff where he's mostly an actor. But what really surprised me, what really jumped out at me from his Wikipedia page here, was this sentence. In his early and personal life, Peele began dating Chelsea Peretti in 2013. They became engaged in November 2015. On April 26, 2016, Peretti announced on her Instagram that she and Peele had eloped. On February 5th, 2017, it was announced that he and Chelsea will be expecting their first baby. Now, the name Chelsea Peretti struck me almost right away because I know she was a comedian. I don't know if she still is. Probably still is. Let me flash her Wikipedia page up here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I remember, gosh, probably over a decade ago, I saw her comedy specials. But I also remember her from True TV Presents World's Dumbest, the World's Dumbest series. So that I definitely remembered her from once it says it here on her Wikipedia page. But what really struck me was in her early life, it says Peretti was born and raised in Oakland, California. That's a warning sign right there. The daughter of an Italian-American father and Jewish mother. Well, 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 blow me down, a Jewish mom. For you new white brothers and sisters, we haven't talked about the JQ too much. I've mentioned the Jew, but one thing you got to know about the Jew is that they are a race. Jews are a race. They admit as much themselves. They're not a religion, they are a race. Now, people can convert to Judaism, but it's all a big scam. And when you convert to Judaism, what you're really doing is you're converting to Talmudism. But we'll get into that in another video. Jews determine your Jewishness, for the most part, based off your mother. Their genealogy follows the mom. If you want to immigrate to Israel, you need to be racially Jewish, and how they determine that is through your mother. It's how they chameleon themselves, how they hide themselves within a host society that they plan to live in and suck dry. Unfortunately, being their eternal enemies, a lot of Jews look white. And so a lot of people, especially non-whites, think that the bad stuff Jews do is white people doing bad stuff. That's exactly how the Jew wants it to look. So Chelsea Peretti is Jewish. And I mean, if you look at her picture here, that nose, that is the kikiest of kike noses. I mean, it does get worse, but damn, that is some kike. That's some kike nose right there. So with that being said, her older brother, this is what I also thought was really interesting. Her older brother is internet entrepreneur Jonah Peretti, who founded BuzzFeed and co-founded the Huffington Post. That kind of blew me away. I didn't know that. Hey, the things you learn when you get into this kind of stuff. Now, if you don't know what the Huffington Post is, good for you. You don't really need to know much about it. It's a liberal rag. Honestly, and that's not even just singling it out. Most of the newspapers out there are just garbage. They're not even worth the paper they're printed on. Now, as for BuzzFeed, I would expect younger people, especially who are YouTube savvy, know what BuzzFeed is. Now, BuzzFeed has a lot of sub-channels, but primarily it's an anti-white, pro-SJW, pro-non-white kind of platform. And not a shocker, because a Jew owns it. So I thought that was kind of interesting that Chelsea Peretti here, a Jewess, and her brother, the Jew who founded BuzzFeed and co-founded Huffington Post. Now, now they're going to have a baby soon. What's that baby going to be? Well, it's going to be a black Jew. Just like Barack Obama, real name Barry Soetoro, is a black Jew. They're called Falasha Jews. So a lot of people see Barack Obama as being a black guy. But, yeah, that's kind of true. But in the end, he's a Jew. And he will have that Jew interest at the forefront of his mind. So, yes, so their child is going to be a Falasha Jew, and will very much have those Jew qualities, if you will. I can only imagine what that child is going to grow up to do. So, with that being said, so yeah, that's Jordan Peele. That is his waifu, Chelsea Peretti. So now let's get into the film Get Out. Now here's the Wikipedia. Oh no, I'm not gonna flash it up yet. I don't want you to read ahead because I don't want to ruin the trailer for you. All you need to know for the trailer is that the main character is a Negro. His name is Chris. His love interest, if you will, is the white girl. Her name is Rose. And in the production remarks here, this is Jordan Peele's directorial debut. And looking through it, it says, as the film deals with racism, Peele has stated that the story is very personal, although he noted that it quickly veers off from anything autobiographical. This kind of screams back to Justin Simeon of Dear White People, and how he wrote the Dear White People script based off of very personal experiences that he was having while he was at a predominantly white university. He based it off of his feelings. And I'm assuming here that Jordan Peele based this off his feelings as well. So I've seen the trailer for this, the trailer I'm going to show you guys a couple times now, as well as the other trailers. This is, wow. This just goes out of the ballpark with how blatantly anti-white it is. Dear White People's pretty bad, but this one, I mean, it's just kind of a shocker in of itself. I'm surprised it hasn't been picked up by Daily Storm or American Renaissance yet. So without much further ado, we will, let's watch the trailer. I'll make in some comments where I feel it necessary, and then after that we'll do a little bit more talking about it. So let's get into it.
You got your...
Okay, so this is something I gotta stop right away. In every trailer I have seen for this movie, and there's like 4 or 5 different ones, including this official trailer here, they always prominently push right away the interracial relationship between Chris, the Negro, and Rose, the white girl. Prominently, like punch you in the face with it. Now, of course, that's the message that the Jew wants to put forth. But there's an even worse scene about this coming up in a minute or two, and I'll have something more to say on that one. Always.
Toothbrush?
Check.
Do you have your deodorant?
Check.
Do you have your cozy clothes?
Oh, that's a white thing.
What?
Do they know I'm black?
Should they?
Oh! Yeah, I have to stop it again right here. So here's Chris, and they're getting ready to meet Rose's parents, and he's telling her, well, do they know I'm black? And here's Rose, heroic, liberal, white girl Rose, saying, should they know you're black? Hasn't the Jew taught me that there is no such thing as race? We're all part of the same human family. It shouldn't matter. This is what the Jew wants every white girl to be. Wow. That's just smack you in the face kind of SJW right there. They didn't pull any punches when it came down to putting in the most stereotypical liberal white girl archetype that they could. Although I must say, I am surprised they didn't go with the usual blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl being the love interest of this Negro here. That's the typical stereotype they like to push. But they went with the brunette. Man, whatever. Although, let me tell you, she has some blue eyes. There are 1 or 2 occasions where they kind of get a close-up on her. She has some blue eyes, like bright blue eyes. They're quite nice. Let's continue on.
Might wanna,
Mom and Dad, my black boyfriend will be coming up this weekend.
Let's pause on that picture right there. That is a distinctly Negroid face. Behind those eyes is a dim light. It can't even be said to be one of intellect. It is just basic light of existence. Honestly, if the main character here, the actor, and Jason Kalulu or whatever the hell his name is, if he didn't have like so-called acting to keep him distracted, I could honestly see him raping and murdering a white woman. That's the face right there of brutish savagery. Let's continue on.
And I just don't want you to be shocked that he's a black man.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's pause it right here. This is the scene I was talking about. I swear in every trailer I've seen for this one, the 30-second ones, they always feature this scene of the black man on top of the white woman. So let's talk about that real quick before we continue on with the trailer. In a movie or music or whatever kind of entertainment medium that you pursue, you typically want to suspend your disbelief so that way you can fully immerse yourself in the experience. Like, if you're watching Home Alone, that when Macaulay Culkin shoots the one guy in the nards with his little BB gun or whatever, that's debilitating. That'll put somebody out, and they're not going to be pursuing him around the house. Or for those of you who are too young to know, I'm talking about Home Alone, the movie. But he gets up. He's fine. He basically has no damage whatsoever from getting BB blasted in the nards. So you know that in reality, he would be down for the count. But you just kind of file that away because you realize you're watching a movie. It's meant for entertainment. So the laws of reality don't necessarily apply. The big thing here is when you suspend your disbelief, you sort of let go of your objective mind, and you let your subjective mind, the most impressionable part of your mind, take over. And that's where the Jew uses the entertainment medium to influence the masses. So when your subjective mind doesn't have its bodyguard, the objective mind, all sorts of subtle messages can find its way into your subconscious. Typically, when you have a man on top of a woman, that is a natural thing. It is a man, it's signifying man's dominance over woman. Now, it's not necessarily in like all these different sexual ways. I mean, it's biblical. The man is supposed to be over the woman, and the woman is supposed to be submissive to the man. So there's nothing unnatural about it per se. It wouldn't really shake you per se as a movie watcher. But here's the thing. They have a black man in the dominant position over this white woman. And it's supposed to give you a message of a message of normality, that this is a normal thing. And it's a black man dominating a white woman. Now that's a message that's been pushed by the Jew through this entertainment medium for a bit now. And they just do not let up. So there's a lot of significance just in this scene right here. It may not seem like much, especially to those of you new brothers and sisters who don't realize the power of these entertainment mediums to influence people, but this has a lot of significance. So, all right, enough of that. Let's continue on.
I ain't never seen you like this before, bro.
Respectable.
Family and taking road trips. Don't come back all bougie.
Might act like a white person.
Got your damn pants up to your damn stomach.
Real quick before I continue on, Blumhouse is the producer of The Visit, Insidious, and The Gift. Now, these are all horror movie type things. I've never seen The Visit or The Gift. I've perused Insidious. That they would help produce this thing is kind of crazy to me. It's not. There's nothing horror about it, so I can only assume this is either a pity production. They got paid enough by some Jew. Or the creator of Blumhouse might be a Jew. I'm not sure. I have to look that one up.
So you guys coming up from the city?
Yeah, we're just heading up for the weekend.
Can I see your license, please?
He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving. I asked to...
Okay, he's going to finish off by saying I asked to see his license. So right here, the interracial aspect of it all, and the fact that they were meeting her parents and they weren't aware he was black, I mean, that was one thing. Now you're getting into this aspect. So you kind of had an interracial message to start. Now what you have is a message of this poor black boy. He didn't do nothing wrong. But this evil white cop, he asking for his driver license. Shit. He don't have no driver license. Damn whitey gonna keep this guy down. Already being black, he's suspicious. Let's continue on. Let's see just how racist these white people will be.
See his ID.
Call me Dean and you hug me, my man.
So how long has this been going on, this thing?
All right, that was a good that was a good spot to pause on. Those faces, especially a Rose, that's just that could be a maniacal look right there. Anyway, I can't look at it actually. I wanted to pause right there because initially what you have is here's Rose's parents, and right away they seem kind of accepting of Chris. But then as they're sitting down here with Rose and Chris, the dad's like, so how long has this been going on, this thing? You can immediately get the implication that he may not be as approving as he seems. Now, if you haven't seen the 30-second trailers, he actually goes to quite a length in those trailers to seem accepting. They didn't really put it in this one. I don't know why. I'm kind of surprised, but in the 30-second ones, you see quite a few scenes you're not seeing in this one, and he seems like he's really trying to embrace Chris. So let's continue on. Oh my god, that face. Just real quick, that right there is Georgina. They're going to say her name in a minute, but I just wanted to point it out. So far, she's my favorite character of the whole thing.
We hired Georgina and Walter to help care for my parents. When they died, I couldn't bear to let them go.
Okay, let's pause. So immediately you have in our politically correct society, a conflict of interest, so to speak. What you have is you have a white family with black servants. And that's actually a direct quote from this movie from one of the 30-second trailers that they would show on YouTube. Now, I say it's a conflict of interest because in our PC world, in this kindergarten that we live in, a white family having black servants is a no-no. Even if they would have been completely hired and would enjoy their jobs and would love the family they're working for. That'd be a no-no. The white family would instantly be evil for daring to think hire black people. So the message right there will hit a very politically correct audience of, uh-oh, something's not right. These white people have black servants. It's almost like a callback to slavery. The other thing is that maybe the servants aren't too well off with this family. Here you have Walter, the groundskeeper, I guess, and he's in the middle of the night running his little ass off, running past Chris, saying nothing, very serious look on his face, like no reasoning behind it whatsoever. And then Chris turns around and he sees Georgina, the maid, in the window, and she has this crazy-ass smile on her face, and her eyes are crossed. So instantly, something's not right. This white family must not be treating their Negro servants right. Let's continue on.
Do you smoke in front of my daughter?
Smoke weed every
She
day.
can take care of that for you.
How?
Hypnosis.
I'm good, actually.
I hate that face.
You ready for this?
I'm back in the beat.
So look, I go do my research. Apparently, a whole bunch of brothers been missing in this suburb.
Boom! Okay, so I didn't say too much. There's not much going on, but what you see is you start to see a gathering of a lot of whites. And this guy brings up that Chris's dad here is talking about a lot of brothers went missing in the suburb that Rose's family lives in. And now what you're seeing is basically only white people attending some kind of gathering that Rose's family is having. So you're getting the message of this white family and this white neighborhood, there's some evil things going down. And a lot of innocent brothers are perhaps the victims of these oppressive white slave masters. Let's continue on.
Cool. Bro, how you not scared of this, man?
Good to see another brother around here.
Okay, I'm going to pause it real quick. So, Chris immediately feels more comfortable having another brother at this gathering. He doesn't feel comfortable, so to speak, around white people. Now, he's like any kind of typical Negro male. He likes having his white trophy girl that will take his shit. But when it comes down to large numbers of whites, very few Negroes feel entirely comfortable. They know they're safer around whites, to be honest. So here's Chris, and he's saying, wow, it's nice to have another black guy here. It makes me feel more comfortable. It makes me feel safer. And then this black guy turns around, this nameless guy, and when Chris goes to give him the Negro bro fist, instead of returning it, he gives him the handshake. Now, there is some significance there. The Negro bro fist is something that, I mean, honestly, I don't even know if Negroes could say they own it too much, so to speak. I think whites do it best. But it's supposed to kind of imply here that if this guy was a true brother, he would give him the bro fist back. He doesn't. He goes in for a handshake even though that would be an awkward thing to do when somebody is approaching you with a closed fist. The small implication there is that this guy is perhaps, how do you say, being made to act white. He's not in the natural Negro thought process where he'd give back a bro fist. Instead, he goes for the handshake. Let's continue on. Maybe something isn't right with this brother.
Chris was just telling me how he felt much more comfortable with my being here.
Okay, so Chris took a picture of him, and the flash, you can see, instantly triggered something that will play a part later on in the trailer.
Get out.
Sorry, man.
Get out! Yo!
Okay, so let's stop there again. Now, realizing full well that this entire movie is based on race. That's all this movie focuses around. What you have is you have this lone black guy. He is, in a sense, acting white. He's dressed in a... It's an abominable travesty is what he's dressed in. But he's dressed somewhat, shall we say, nicely. And he goes for handshakes. And he's in a crowd of white people and probably would be completely, so to speak, blended in. But as soon as Chris takes his picture, it triggers something. You can see he's got some blood coming from his nose. And then he gets into a fit. He gets into a rage, and he's screaming at Chris, "Get out! Get out!" And you got this one white guy who grabs him, and he starts restraining him back. And so you have this subtle message of this black guy is under duress. He's not there of truly his own free will. Something's not right. He's being kept down by the white man. Now let me just say this. If this were any other kind of trailer, if this wasn't so based around race, and this was just some kind of normal thing, that'd actually be interesting. And it'd be good for a trailer, a good tease. But because this movie is based completely about race, and it's anti-white to the core, the only messages you can get are racial ones. And so this black guy, the message here is he's being oppressed. He's being transformed. He's being held down by the white man. Let's continue on.
Rose, we gotta go.
Is everything okay?
Rose, the keys. Just get the keys.
I don't know where they...
So here's the other thing. We have good girl Rose. She's a wonderful liberal, and she doesn't see race, and she has a black boyfriend. And as far as I can tell from any of the trailers I've seen, she has no idea whatsoever that her family or that the suburb she, I would say, undoubtedly grew up in has some kind of secret when it comes down to black men disappearing, maybe black people in general, or what's going on with the servants at the house. She is a message. She is the model of what the Jew wants, especially white women, but the white race in general, to be in the future. She isn't like her parents or her closed-minded family caught in the past. She's the future. She's a progressive thinker. So that's probably the only real conflict here with Rose, is that she's totally on the side of her Negro trophy boyfriend and is against the racist, supremacist ways of her family. Way to go, Rose. You are a champion of the future. Let's continue on.
Rose?
Sink into the floor.
I just missed it. You know what? Well, hey, let's do this live. Boop. Boom. That face right there. That face is meant to elicit emotion. Now, in any other kind of movie, that would be okay. But because this movie is so race-based, I can tell you right there why they put this in, why they have that featured, why it's so focused in right there. It's not because it otherwise would have been a good aspect for a horror movie. But I've seen this face before. Negroes make this face a lot when they want to get something out of the white man. Or when they want to try and elicit the emotions of white women, who are very easy to manipulate emotionally. And Negroes basically have, in general, the overall mindset of children. And so it's very easy for them to become emotionally active too, which is why they'll rampage across cities at the slightest provocation. But I remember back, maybe late 2015 into 2016, when you had all of the mud slimes and Negroes invading Africa, so-called migrants. And a lot of these Negroes would go on, they'd have like these, because they're so poor, they have cell phones, they can take these little videos and whatnot, or they'll make a nuisance of themselves in front of news crews. And you'll see Negroes, and they'll have this face, almost just like this. And they'll be crying, saying, oh, we need food, oh, we need money, oh, we need clothes, oh, we need shelter, take us in, gimme, gimme, gimme. And even in Negroes here in the U.S., you can kind of see some of the same thing when they're out and they're rampaging, but then they try and say, oh, we didn't do nothing wrong, it's the white man, please give us money, please give us food, we burned down our own city. So this face is meant to elicit a reaction. And the reaction is you're supposed to identify with Chris and feel for Chris. Now, it's typically a thing you do in a movie, but because this movie, as I've said again and again, is anti-white, is based off race, you're supposed to identify with him racially. Now, a lot of Negroes who will be sitting in the theaters will do that, but the real suckers are going to be these guilt-ridden whites who will probably go see this movie out of a sense of duty rather than pleasure, who will identify with him and will hate themselves even more. And honestly, I can't say I feel any sympathy for them. I hope they piss away their money. I hope they feel even guiltier about themselves and hang themselves instead of making their guilt and trying to use that to squash us who don't really give a rat's ass about Negroes or their so-called plight. Let's continue on.
The floor.
Wait.
Sit.
It's a terrible thing to waste.
So there's some strong imagery right there. Chris, and it kind of delves into the psychological thriller aspects that this movie's supposed to have. And now he's strapped to a chair, and you see a motif of some kind of surgical motif, a medical motif. Something's not right. And Rose's dad looks like he's the chief surgeon.
Terrible thing to waste.
Boom. Negroes are going to love that. That chick with the gun, way badass. Now, this part of the trailer, I mean, this, honestly, I would have left this out, but, I mean, they want to throw it in there. I would have left it out just because, I mean, it's so blatant, but that's probably what they were going for. This is the slave auction, and apparently they're using bingo to determine who's going to be the winner of Chris's services, so interesting aspect. The old days, I guess, at the Jewish slave markets, that was just cash, but okay. Oh, I should point this out. I don't know if I pointed it out earlier, or if you could have seen him earlier. Right there on your left side in the back, you have an Asian guy. The only other non-white race represented as far as I can tell. Just this one lone Asian guy. And the other thing I could think of is that way Jordan Peele could say, oh no, they weren't all white. It wasn't anti-white. Look, there's this Asian guy. The Asian guy is just kind of funny just because he's like a token Asian that was thrown in there. But if you didn't notice, he's funny. But it looks like he's interested in winning himself a slave.
If there's too many white people, I get nervous.
Whoa! Wow. So Chris just lets his feelings spill right out right there for you. When there's too many white people around, he gets nervous. What the hell would you be nervous about? Honestly, black people are more nervous around their own race than they are anything else. They're 9 times more likely to shoot each other than they will a white guy, even though they slaughter whites massively. Despite how much of us they kill each other even more. You're safer around a white person. but he doesn't feel comfortable. He only wants to be around his racial kinsmen. There's a huge message here. Now here's Georgina. This is my favorite part. This is why Georgina is my favorite character. Yeah.
No. No.
Oh.
It's a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, George. Yeah, go on. Continue on. Georgina is like my favorite character just for that scene right there. She's MVP right there. My favorite character out of them all. All right, so with that review out of the way, let's get into some afterthoughts. So that was the trailer for the upcoming movie Get Out. Jordan Peele, if this is your directorial debut, you got a lot to work on, my man. I would stay away from stuff that you're not truly familiar with and go back to comedy, where you, honestly, it's probably where you belong at best. I really don't have much more to say about the movie. The anti-white theme is just so obvious that anything else this movie could have tried for is completely washed away. If this would have just been some regular old, maybe B-grade kind of horror movie, psychological thriller style, from what I've seen from the trailer, for some of the aspects, like the hypnosis aspect, the surgery aspect, towards the end where you have that, I want to assume it's probably like a deer skeleton kind of laughing at the main character, it's interesting enough. On the technical aspects, perhaps this would be a good movie. And without a script just based completely around race, just a normal-ass script with normal-ass characters. Cheesy. Make it a little campy. That's almost what some horror people would expect from a movie of this caliber. It's not Poltergeist. It's not A Haunting in Connecticut or anything like that. So you can have that. And honestly, like I said, the entire racial aspect would ruin any other kind of chance this movie would have had. The only thing I could say is that perhaps the only salvageable light here would be if Peele pulls some kind of M. Night Shyamalama ding-dong, and the whole twist is that the white family is totally nice, okay with interracial relationships, and the entire thing was some kind of fever dream he had while he was under hypnosis from the mom who was trying to cure him of his smoking habit. That's the only thing I could see that... honestly, it can't salvage the movie. The damage is done. But that's the only way I could see him pulling this off and not look like a total anti-white douchebag. So honestly, like I said, don't have too much more to say about the movie. I kind of got what I needed to out of on my commentary on the video, on the trailer. I hope this was enjoyable for you guys. Probably not, but hey, whatever. Like I said, this is just me trying to work on my YouTube presence. I have been looking back on some of my other videos and trying to work on the way I speak and stuff like that. So this is a little educational first step for me as well. You've been listening to the Blue Tunic Trumpet, and until the next video, can you hear the call?